Okay, as funny as this topic is going to be, it's a very serious one. So I want to talk about fat kids who get starved and abused. Fat kids in abusive homes who get starved. Um, so I want to start off with the obvious, and that is obviously no one's going to believe them at all. At all. Their parents overfed them for months on end. And now all of a sudden, as punishment or whatever, they're just psycho weirdos. They want to abuse their kids. Now all of a sudden, they're taking away the food and they're starving their kids. And it gets so bad that the kid will actually run away, starving for food, and go to some neighbor's house or some neighbor's camp and ask for Oreos or something and ask for food or something like that. And but it just won't seem believable. It just won't seem believable, because if they get talked to and they get asked questions, depending on how old they are too, especially if they've had concussions, if they have any brain issues, they'll get asked questions, and there's just no proof. And, it depends on exactly how long they get starved for, too. If it's not for that much, like if they only get starved once every other day, then it wouldn't seem as believable. They'd ask, when was your last meal? And the kid would say, it was yesterday. That doesn't sound really as believable. And even if it was longer than that, it still wouldn't sound, it would sound maybe even less believable then. Because then you'd be like, wait, how's this fat kid starving for so long? Let's say they starved this fat kid for 2 weeks. You could literally starve a fat kid for probably, depending on how fat they are, you could probably starve them for 3 weeks before they either get skinny or die. So imagine, these kids could go on for that long, starved. It's super sad, but almost at the same time, like I almost want to laugh. It's almost funny to me to think about it, because it's just this cute kid that's going through hell, and it's just like, it kind of reminds me of me when I used to be chunky, but they would have it way worse. I never went through something like that. The only time I would starve is when parents would take too long to make dinner that night. But it's just, I don't know, something maybe like that. Maybe that's why that, and because of the fact, maybe because they're fat, and I fat shame so much, and because nobody's gonna believe them. Nobody would believe them. It's sad, but it's almost funny in a way too. And I thought, why not make a video about it? Because I'm bored, and I'm trying to make content for this channel, and because I thought maybe it could help somebody, because people don't think about this shit. Let's say some random kid watches this video in the future, and they end up deciding to be a CPS worker someday. This video could maybe help them. Maybe it might help them think about what actually could be going on in this world. This type of shit could really be going on. I doubt this video is really going to help much, but it could maybe. But either way, it's a fact that nobody would believe that kid. Nobody would believe this little fatty that he's getting starved and abused by his parents. Nobody would believe it, and it would just keep going on. It would happen, until they're obviously old enough to either remember, to fight back, or to stop it, or something, or to remember it and then report it to other people. Whatever it takes. Sometimes some different parents are different. Some people are willing to risk things a little bit more than other people are willing to risk things. So maybe the kid waking up the next day remembering something wasn't enough to scare them. Maybe the kid has to wake up, remember it, and then report it. Otherwise, it will never stop. Because that's what they'll do when they give the kids concussions, is try to stop them from reporting it. That's what they'll do by giving them concussions. putting them in the dark spaces, like dark rooms, and then starving them with no form of entertainment at all, but their imaginations. And what that does is when they use their imagination too much and not their eyes and not their any other form of senses, then what they do is they basically go into they basically go into like a dream world, La La Land, and they imagine things too much. This is something that actually happened to me during some of the abusive rages that my parents would go through. It just wasn't as bad. Like, I didn't get starved all day like I'm describing in this video. But there were days where I'd get starved for a few hours, and they'd smack me over the head, and they would, threaten to take away all my stuff, and they would, they would smack me hard too, by the way, really, really hard. And they would threaten to murder me. And then they'd tell me to go in my room they'd take the TV out or something like that. And I'd have nothing. I'd be in this dark little room with nothing but my imagination to keep me occupied. And because of that, I end up becoming like a space cadet, awkward, antisocial individual. That's one of the reasons why I ended up the way I am. Because of their horrible abuse that I went through. So this is actually a topic that I actually feel near and dear. I feel it's near and dear to discuss, to expose, because it's something that affects innocent people, and I was one of those innocent people. So I know what it feels like to go through it. Now, obviously, what I'm talking about in this video is way, way worse. I'm talking about if the abuse went on so bad that they were locked in their rooms not just for a day, but for 2 days or 3 or once every other day, which would be way worse, I think. If it was once every other day, like, that's full-on abuse. They're not forgetting that they want to torture their kids if they do something like that. Other parents, they might forget why they're upset. They might be like, or they might not care that much, and they might be like, it's not that big of a deal. He's just a kid, or he's just whatever. I overreacted. But some of them go full on, crazy mode, and they will just torture the kid every single night. They'll wake him up every hour. They'll smack him around every time around the house when he just walks by. I think that's something that actually happened to one of my old friends, Zach Smith. And but his father would make it seem like it was just a joke, like, I'm just being friendly with you, and smack him as hard as he could upside the head or something. That's the type of shit that gives your kids concussions and makes it so they don't do good in life. Some of them are a lot more aggressive than others. Some of them are a lot more out in the open about their abuse than others. Some of the abuse you don't even know is abuse. Like my friend Zach Smith, he might not even know that was real abuse, but his father was really upset at him about something, and he was taking out his anger on his son 100% by doing that. Could some of it been playing around? Sure, but I think most of it, maybe even some of it was just trying to make his son stronger too. You could look at it from a couple different point of views, but we know for a fact he probably at one point got upset and did that out of rage as well. It wasn't always just fun and jokes, fun and games. Sometimes I'm sure he was really fucking pissed off. But on to back to the topic. This video is about people, like kids specifically, who get starved way too much, but they're fat somehow. So that would mean like their parents overfed them after starving them one time. So that's normally how obese people get fat, actually. I think that might have been how I got fat, but mine wasn't as bad. It just was for a day. But even if you starve your kids for a day, it is so bad because literally that next day they're going to eat and eat and eat and eat. And what that does is it overexpands their stomach line. And so that they now have to eat more to fill themselves. They don't know when they're full anymore. So they'll just eat and eat and eat and eat and eat. And then eventually they'll become obese because of it. And for an abusive parent, you think that's the last thing you want because you want to be able to abuse your kid and have it be easy on you, right? But that's not what they do to their kids. They make their kids obese, and then they'll freak out even more about it because it costs too much money. They got to go shopping more. They got to compete with this kid with food in the fridge. Like, normally if you buy something and you think, okay, here's a sheer amount of food. You get yours, I get mine. Well, if they're fat, it doesn't work like that. You just got to eat as quick as you can and hope that you get enough food and they don't just eat themselves to oblivion because that's how fat people are. They can do that. So, this is shit that really is happening, I think, a lot around here. They'll hit their kids over the head. They'll abuse their kids. They'll try to make their kids forget all these things and slow down their thought processing. And they'll starve their kids in the process of it. Whether they're actually trying to starve their kids or not, whether the word starve even crosses their minds at all or not, that is entirely what they're doing when they do that, when they act like that. That is 100% what they are doing when they act like that, when they do those things. They are 100% starving their children. They're 100% starving their children. What's a good way to put it? Or what's something else I could say about it? I want to say something else. I'm only at 12 minutes in this video. I'd like to get it to like 20 maybe. This type of thing does happen a lot around here. Yeah. So I want to talk about the people that I see that are obese in my neck of the woods. So it seems like the people that are obese in my neck of the woods, my area, they all have something seriously wrong with them that hurt them. So let's say, for example, my cousin, his father passed away the same time he started to gain weight. So I believe, I don't know for sure because I'm not him, but I believe it was the stress from the loss of his father. He might have cried or he might have just been so upset that he was on his bed not doing anything for who knows how long. He maybe starved himself, maybe even got sick because of it. And then after that, his stomach and his mind kicks into overdrive and is like, dude, you got to eat more. And then he must have stuffed himself too much. Maybe his mother was worried about him and started cooking some good shit to get him eating a little bit more. And one thing led to another. He got really big. This is the type of stuff that happens to big people. They go through some type of mental, physical, emotional trauma. It affects them to the point where now they're starving. Doesn't matter how long they starve for. It could be just for a couple meals maybe. I don't know exactly how long it takes, but you get starved enough, you're going to end up being like those mukbang girls, eating the food as fast as you possibly can. So when you eat faster, you don't realize how much you're putting down, so you stuff it even more. And when you stuff it even more, you're going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Well, anyways, other big people I've seen around here, I notice, for women, for example, on dating apps, every single one of them seem like almost have choker necklaces on. So that symbolizes to me that their father sexually abused them, or someone they know got sexually abused by their father, and now they think because one person is normalizing it, that they think it's normal for them to do it. But it's not. Kinky sex is wrong. It's disgusting. It's really risky. There's no point of it. And 9 times out of 10, people only do it because they got abused by their father and they are turned on by it. So, for example, let's say some girl I talked to once wanted to get choked and wanted to call me daddy. That's a sign that she was sexually abused by her father. And she has no problem with it. Or she's just used to it. And that's just how she gets turned on. Because choking symbolizes to her sexual orgasm. Because every time he forces her to sexual orgasm, he's choking her at the same time. So now she can't come without it. That's why they're like that. It's disgusting. And any boy, any man who would even do a woman like that should really evaluate the scenario, the situation that he's in, and try to figure it out and try to better it somehow at very least. If not, get the fuck away from it. Because that's a serious problem. That's disgusting. I don't know anybody who could put up with something like that. It's really wrong. It's really wrong. I don't care what they look like. I don't care if they're German. I don't care what they are. They could be black. They could be whatever they want to be. They could like being whipped. They could like being choked. I don't care. It doesn't change anything. They all got sexually abused when they were kids by someone. Don't matter who did it either. Could have been their dad. Could have been a uncle. Could have been a brother. Could have been a guy on the bus. Some form of abuse happened to them, and now they like this choking. And it kind of reminds me of obese people, where some form of abuse happened to them, and now they like eating. It's kind of similar in a way. It's very kind of similar. It's very sad as well. The only kind of chuckable, or the only kind of somewhat funny part about it would be the idea that some really, really big chunky kid might run away from his parents at some camps someday, run up to some other family and be like, I'm getting starved. And the whole family would laugh and be like, there's no way you're getting starved, kid. I mean, I feel bad, but at the same time, like, it's funny. It's funny to me. I don't know why. It's just funny to me. That's something that definitely could happen. That's something that's probably already happened dozens and dozens of times, actually. It's really sad. If that kind of thing happens to you, you should be on your kids like a dog and tell them, keep your mouth shut, because this type of shit really can happen. Now, sure, sometimes the kids are just lying or they're over-exaggerating. Maybe it was only for an hour or two. But sometimes they're really telling the truth. They could have got really abused really, really bad. And if you make fun of them, it's going to really hurt their feelings. It's not okay. Just because they're fat doesn't mean they're not also starving. And I know starving can be good for fat people, but it's not good for a child who's in early development at all. At all. Especially when these people aren't buying them any multivitamins or anything. Like, at least get them a multivitamin if you're going to starve your fucking kid. You fucking scumbag piece of shit. But no, they don't even do that. These people are like literally exterminating their kids like fucking Jews in a concentration camp. Like Nazis. Well, actually the Nazis were Jews and they were doing it to Palestinians. But that's whatever. You want to believe in whatever you want to believe in. They're like literally getting exterminated. Some of these kids around here. It's so sad. It's so sad. Anyways, I'm on the video here. Keep your eyes out for abuse and report that shit. Report it as much as possible. Even if you're wrong and you look crazy, at least you can apologize. You can say, listen, I'm sorry, but I was trying to do the best thing I could possibly do, which is save kids. And at all times, you're like that, and that's just your personality, maybe, and that's good. Some people are always like that. For an example, one of the YouTubers I watch, Rami, he's a predator catcher. He catches pedophiles on YouTube and exposes them to the police, gets them arrested. He found a bum in the park once when he was just vlogging, and he started freaking out on the bum because he instantly accused the bum of being a child predator. But we don't know for sure if the bum was a child predator or not. So I forget what I was getting at here, but mistakes happen. I don't know if that's what I was getting at. Abuse happens too. And I forget what I was getting at. But I'm gonna end the video here. I don't know what else to say. Just be on the lookout and report it if you see it, because reporting it can create good change. And even if you end up looking crazy in the end. Oh yeah, that reminds me what I was saying. Rami, the guy who ended up looking crazy in the end at the end of it, he screamed at some random bum at the park. But for all we know, I mean, he could have been right. He could have been really right. That bum could have been only at that park just to rape kids. So as crazy as Rami seemed for acting the way he was and freaking out the way he did, for all we know, he could have saved the kid's life that night. And maybe, yeah, sure, he overreacted. Maybe he was on a little too much roids or whatever. But he's not a bad guy. And, like, people like me still love him and respect him, even though I kind of was, like, a little nervous about that. And I was, like, unsure if I respected him for doing that or not, because I don't know that bum. I don't know what that bum's going through. And the way he acted was very, like, bullying, and I didn't really know him good back then. So I was kind of really iffy about how I felt about it. But, like, I still have a ton of respect for him. I still love him. So, like, sometimes you could think crazy thoughts about people, assume crazy things, report it to other people, and if you're wrong, you could still get a shit ton of respect and love from people. Anyways, I'm going to end the video here. I don't know what else to say. Just report shit if you see it.